Welcome to this week's Go Bold podcast. I'm Scott Patton, your host, and we are so honored and humbled that you joined us today. On the Go Bold Network, we go bold or we go home, and our view is the greatest strategic threat to the gospel is silent and timid Christians. Did you get a chance? Hit that like and subscribe button. We'd love to have you comment on our page too, or give us a comment so we could have a discussion. Especially on our YouTube channel. We upload a video every single day, whether it's a sermon clip, a podcast, a clip of a podcast, but we would also really love to hear from you. Blessings of the week. Count your blessings. Name them one by one. I got to baptize a beautiful lady on Sunday, and we had another young lady, young girl that came to Christ, so we're just blessed all the way around. And also, folks, we would love to pray for you. So if you have a prayer request, please send it to the GoBoldNetwork.net, the GoBoldNetwork.net. We have a special feature there on our webpage that you could send your prayer requests. You can keep them also anonymous, and we would love to pray for you. And that's what we do on the Go Bold Network. Now, don't have a lot of time to talk about the college football. We did see Oklahoma skull-drug Nebraska. Man, I tell you what, the Sooners looked really tough, and I really feel sorry for the Nebraska football program. But we're going to see how, in the coming weeks here, we're going to see how good the rest of the teams are across the country when the schedules start getting tougher for everybody. But now, let's get to our top stories. I want to start with this one, guys. We have talked about some very tough things on the Go Bold podcast, and I preach on tough things in the pulpit many times. But what happened, Matt Walsh of the Daily Wire broke probably the most vile and disgusting story that I've seen in some time, and that is Vanderbilt, University of Vanderbilt, shocking teenager gender mutilation for profit. I want you to think about this. I want you to look at this picture. What Vanderbilt University has done, and this is started back in 2000, according to Matt Walsh. This is started back in 2018. They opened up, the University of Vanderbilt at their medical center opened up a transgender clinic for transitioning. For the confusion of the transgender girls and boys, they opened up this clinic. Now, here's the thing. Here's what I want everybody to understand up front. I'm not talking about consenting adults here. Okay, we're not talking about that. If you have a consenting adult that's beyond the age of 18 and you want to have your go through the gender reassignment surgeries or drugs to make that happen, you're a consenting adult. We live in a free country. You do what you do. I disagree with it totally. I think it's biblically wrong. I think it's morally wrong. There's a whole many things. But if you're a consenting adult, that's your right. Okay? But it's not the right for 13-year-olds. And the motivation, what I'm going to show you here for the University of Vanderbilt, was built on one thing: profit. Shocking gender mutilation of teenagers for profit. Now, according to Matt Walsh, the Daily Wire, he was the one that broke all this story. Now, all the other news outlets are now picking it up. The Federalist, Fox News, even last night, Tucker Carlson had a segment on this where this is just going to blow your mind, folks. The Daily Wire host, he spoke to Matt Walsh, Tucker Carlson did, about his findings at the hospital transgender care unit. Walsh revealed in one video on Tuesday that we're going to see here, or we're going to see one of them here in a second, revealed in one of the videos how the doctor openly discussed how lucrative these transgender surgeries are for the hospital. And were encouraging because they were able to make so much money off these these teenage girls. And another video, and this is according to Matt Walsh, and you're going to see it here in a second. Another doctor told medical professionals, and this is on tape, and this is on tape, you can see it, that those who object for religious purposes or just on the moral grounds of performing these procedures will face consequences. Her words. I'll say this. We know this for a fact that Vanderbilt, this is according to Matt Walsh, that Vanderbilt University is performing double mastectomies on minor children. Children, okay? We're talking 13-year-olds. And you're probably thinking, well, how's that? I'm going to show you here in a second. But they're not only doing this surgically for invasion surgically, they're also doing this chemically. And they're giving these young teenagers these hormone drugs that change their body forever. Walsh told Fox News that this stuff is happening all across the country. He just happened to expose Vanderbilt. And one of the reasons it keeps out of happening because nobody wants to talk about it. Everybody's afraid to talk. Walsh is right on this. Guys, what in the world is our world coming to? These are babies. My goodness. The horror. I can't imagine. The Washington Examiner had a good piece on this as well, and they talked about the whole ordeal where you just got to follow the money, because what you're going to hear this lady say, would you see this lady say? Now, let me just say, Vanderbilt now has taken this entire website down for their transgender clinic. They are starting to delete multiple YouTube videos, but guess what? We've got some. The Washington Examiner just reported that says, follow the money. Now, here's what I want you folks to understand. You probably remember, you probably don't, but when they passed Obamacare, this has been planned for the Marxist left for a long time. When they passed Obamacare, they made it where this is all covered under Obamacare. So if you have a 13-year-old or 14-year-old that wants to have gender reconstruction surgery, they can do that, and it's covered. It has to be covered by law by Obamacare. Now, here's what the lady from so our healthcare system is going to be mutilating the bodies of vulnerable young teenagers that are gender confused. Otherwise, they're physically healthy, but will never again be healthy after this procedure. And if they ever want to change it, okay, they can't. The reality is gender affirming care, and this is bought and paid for by what? Obamacare. And this is what is just so heartbreaking in this is the incentive for these places like Vanderbilt, which is just the incentive is profit. One of the ladies was talking about on the surgeon. I'll see the stories here that you have to understand. The detransitioner stories now, and this is what they're calling these young kids that have these procedures, and when they're 13 and then when they're 15 or 16, they wake up and they're like, well, I'm a girl now, and I want to date boys, and I want to I want to do these things, and I want to go on in my life and have children, and can't. They can't. It's heartbreaking. It's infuriating. And it just makes us wonder, what is going on in this world? Medical sex change treatments. Why are we not demanding that this stop? Nobody wants to say anything because people are too scared to talk. But the other problem is these medical professionals are making millions and millions of dollars off these sex change surgeries and hormone treatments. There's a lot that you've just like the federal said, follow the money. Follow the money. The fact that Vanderbilt Medical Center, Vanderbilt University, opened up this clinic in 2018. I want to talk about a lady named Dr. Shane, maybe I'm saying that right, or Shane Taylor. She was bragging about this on the video, which now been taken down by Vanderbilt University, but she started this gender clinic. She helped start this gender clinic back in 2018 and admitted during this lecture that the same-sex treatments was so profitable. And the reason it was so profitable because Obamacare is covering this as medical expenses, using her words, for trans folks. She bragged that for every gender-confused little girl, okay, I'm going to use her words here, gender-confused woman who wishes to undergo the top surgery, she's talking the top surgery, otherwise known in the medical community as a double mastectomy, can bring in $40,000. Then she started bragging about the bottom surgery, where you have the genital mutilation. She was talking that it was just beyond lucrative, citing an estimate which she believes is just through the roof. And then she goes on to say this Dr. Shane Taylor. She goes on to say that I've never heard of this vaginoplasty, and she thinks this is also very underestimated. This is all according to Matt Walsh. She puts this out in this tweet. And you can see it on the video, too, if you want to look it up. Brings $20,000. And then she brags, that doesn't even include the hospital stay. That doesn't include post-op anesthesia. They're looking at how much money the University of Vanderbilt, but it's just not them. We're going to start uncovering this all over the United States. A patient who just wishes to be on a routine hormone treatment plan, this is her words again, several $1,000s. And then she brags this is actually making money for the hospital. And she convinced the city of Nashville, she brags about this, to bring this gender clinic in, okay, so they can get all these types of surgeries from these little girls all over the world, all over the United States, because it's completely going to fund ourselves. And they're calling this these phalloplasties, a curation. This I've never heard this term in my life. So they do these bottom surgeries for for thousands and thousands of dollars, and then they do this procedure called a phalloplasty, where it's a creation of a fake penis on a woman. Okay, so then Vanderbilt kind of got worried that maybe their staff wouldn't be all on board. So then they had Dr. Ellen Clayton warned that conscientious objectors, using her words here, are problematic. And anyone who decides not to be involved in the transition surgery due to your religious belief, this is her words, will face consequences. Really? Is that is that the University of Vanderbilt's position now? This is insane. This is insane. I read an article before we came live today, that the governor of Tennessee is now opening up an investigation. My goodness. I think governors across the country need to look into this. The other thing that they did at Vanderbilt is they got, in case you had objectors, they have this program they unveiled, and they were very proud of it, called Trans Buddies. And the Trans Buddies are trans activists from the community who attend the appointments with these teenage girls to guard against unsafe behavior like misgendering, like saying, you know what, you're probably just confused right now and you're really a girl. You're probably wondering, how does this happen to teenagers? Where are their parents? This is where we've got to work with our state legislators and our local officials about these laws, because I didn't realize this, but there's a thing called a mature minor law. And it's different, I think, in every state. But the mature minor law, and I'm quoting it here, is an adolescent that's younger of the age of majority. So I would believe that's probably 13. Such a minor can consent or refuse consent to medical treatment if the established that the minor is sufficiently mature understands. Okay, this is what the law says. minor is sufficiently mature to understand, discern, and appreciate the benefits and risks of a proposed medical treatment. Guys, that is absolutely insane. So you're saying a 13-year-old is sufficiently mature to understand, discern, and appreciate the benefits and risks of a proposed medical treatment. Really? Guys, this is so evil and so vile. I don't think you can make up this evil. You couldn't make up this evil. So what happens now? If you have a daughter that's 13 and she wants to go through with this procedure, and she contacts these, she will get assigned a trans buddy, and she will start telling her that she is a what they call a mature minor, where she has the right to do this. And then they overwhelm her with everything that if the parents reject this, or the parents have a problem with, they don't have a ground to stand on. And under the way this law is written, and this is why we've got to get these laws. So Vanderbilt assigns these trans buddies, and then they make all these services available to these children, and they talk to them about also chemical castration. This is insane, guys. This is absolutely insane. And then now they're taking this is what Vanderbilt's saying. Okay, now they're taking all these videos down. They're taking all these videos down. But guess what? Thankful Matt Walsh was able to capture the Vanderbilt Psychiatry YouTube channel back in 2020, where they admit and they brag, and they have given irreversible hormone drugs to children as young as 13. Watch this.
Not 16-year-olds don't start puberty. So more recently, they did update that to say as early as 14 for compelling reasons. So we have some individuals who have started gender-affirming hormones at 13 or 14 to be more like their peers. Again, fertility preservation and consent are very important to discuss prior to any initiation of these.
So we're not making this up, guys. This is not fake news. This is real news. And it hurts me to watch this. Now, after these 13-year-olds are drugged and sterilized, these kids, okay, Vanderbilt now explains, as you just saw, by a plastic surgeon, in another video, if you want to look at it, it's on the internet, what will happen when they perform a double mastectomy on these little adolescent girls. Okay? So let's just review this, guys. Vanderbilt got into the transition gender game for one reason: profit. And then they threatened any staff member who objected to this. And now they've enlisted a gang of trans activists to act as surveillance in order to force the compliance of these stupid minor major laws. And now they castrate, they sterilize, and they mutilate minors. Now, guys, adults have that freedom to choose that. And I'm not talking about the adults. I'm talking about the children. And they're taking this, they're taking this to try to hide this from the society, so we don't look at people like me don't look at it, and we don't talk about it. Pastors, we need to stand up. I was very, very thankful that the ELRC, the Southern Baptist Convention, who I've been a very, very big critic of, Brent Leatherwood tweeted about this. I just hope they follow this with actions. We need to put it. Guys, I'm going to tell you something. This is where the David Frenches of the world and all the Marxists left. If you get involved in this, they're going to call you a Christian nationalist, and they're going to throw rocks at you. And that's just Satan, guys. That's how Satan rolls. Okay? But here's what I want you to understand unequivocally. We've got to get involved. We've got to work with our state legislators. We've got to expose this. We do that in a Christ-like manner. But we've got to educate our populations. We need to educate people in our pulpits, yes. And this is not politics, guys. This is when you hear, especially a Christian like Russell Moore or people that claim to be Christians like Russell Moore or David French, and they say, "Well, you shouldn't be involved in this. This is politics." That's junk. That's just Satan wanting you not to fight in his spiritual war. Because I'm going to tell you guys, the University of Vanderbilt is a modern day Frankenstein Nazi laboratory. That's what they are. This is sick, and there needs to be charges brought against multiple people. There need to be charged. They need to be charged with crimes against humanity. I was reading an article in the American Mind that said that we have reached a turning point on this issue of gender ideology. Because here's what's happened, guys. We have now 37. This is probably a very, very low estimate. 37,000 young ladies now that have now changed their mind, that got these procedures done when they were like 13 and 14, and now they're 18. We talked about that. But there's a lady named Chloe Cole, and she was put on puberty blockers when she was 13 years. She's come out now, and she identified as transgender when she was 12, and at 15 she was given now a double mastectomy, and at 16 she became just filled with horrible regrets. And she came out, and her words, Miss Cole, "I was failed by the system," she told the New York Post, according to the New York Post. She lost organs. And now that she's come out against this, she has gotten death threats. She has gotten threatened by the trans activist community, by the Marxists and the left. They believe that the number of, this is called detrans people, that don't want to be trans are called detrans now. Like I said, the estimate was 37,000, but I would say that's probably closer to 50 to 80,000 if we really wanted to look at this. Matthew chapter 18 verse 6 says simply this, and this is Jesus talking. "But whoever causes one of these little ones to believe in me to sin, it would be better for him to have a great millstone fastened around his neck and to be drowned in the depth of the sea." Guys, I'm going to tell you something. Jesus and our God mock him at your own peril. And you're going to see a lot of these stories today. Mock God at your own peril. Because the people at Vanderbilt and the people that are doing this are going to have to stand before God someday. You will have to stand before God and tell them what you did to these children. It is awful. It is God-awful. It is cruel. It is mean. It is nasty. And disciples of Jesus, we need to go out and we need to start working with our state legislators. We need to work with law enforcement. We need to work with the Department Health Services. We can't let this happen to our children. Now, to our next story. This also got my goat. The Army recommends food stamps for soldiers. Now, this just, as you guys know, I'm a 28-year Army veteran. This is just horrible. Now, according to the USA News, with inflation prices affecting everything from gas prices to groceries to rent, and now what's happening? Soldiers are having to resort to food stamps, and they can't get by on the budgets. So the Sergeant Major of the Army, Michael A. Grinston, he wrote some guides. Now, let me just tell you guys how this works. If the Sergeant Major of the Army is going to give written guidance to soldiers, they've thought about this. This is a big deal. It's not something he just said off the cuff. But he used it through the Army's Financial Readiness Program. And let me just quote him here. The guidance point to soldiers, he's telling soldiers to get on the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program. It's called SNAP. We're very familiar with that. That's food stamps, okay? All right? And it's a program that provides low-income individuals with families with electronic benefits on a debit card, and they can purchase foods at retail stores. Okay? Now, Sergeant Major of the Army is encouraging soldiers now to get this because they have food insecurity right now. The U.S. Army soldiers have food insecurity. Now, I want to tell you how stupid this is. We're probably looking, if you look at the enlisted soldiers, this probably affects about 40% of our Army, I think. Okay. Now, based on the Pentagon's own data, and this is according to the USAA website, 24% of enlisted personnel are food insecure. Now, while food stamps are a Band-Aid, the admission that we have to have this for our soldiers and families is just blows my mind. You wonder why we have this recruiting problem in the Army? And I'll tell you what has happened. The federal inflation data, let's just look at that for a second. Let's look at the federal inflation data. Inflation has risen at the fastest rate since it has since 1970. So the fastest rate in, over 50 years. The food index has increased almost 11%. This is the largest increase since May of 1979. The food at home index rose 13%. Okay. Again, the largest since 1979, since the days of Jimmy Carter. The index for other food at home rose almost 16%. Okay. Now here's what's happened, guys. The things for like fruits and vegetables, 10%. Dairy products, 15%. Think about this. So what's happened is this instead of the Biden administration to go out and say, you know what, we've got to do these are the things that we've caused here. We're just going to tell our policy is going to be hey soldier, just go get on some food stamps. We can't feed you here in the Army, so we're just going to have you and your family go on food stamps. Fox News did a segment on this the other day, and I can't remember which one it was, but they said no one ever joined the Army to be rich, and that's true. But I've got the base pay for a private is about $21,000. And here's what I'll tell you guys. Here's what we can do. Imagine this. Imagine that instead of spending $750 billion on 90,000 IRS agents. Imagine now the student loan forgiveness. Imagine instead of paying off $650 billion of student loans for people that make $125,000 a year. Imagine if we just put let's just don't even do it for the officers. Let's just give the raises to our young soldiers. Let's give them about a 24% cost of living adjustment, so we can get through the 16% of the inflation adjustment, because inflation is rising so much by the time you get the next bill passed, which you probably won't do for another year or two. Okay. The meantime, soldiers are just going to be out there. The ones that are defending our country, the ones that are going out and sacrificing. You wonder why we're not getting anybody in the Army? I'll tell you what it's doing, guys. It's killing the all-volunteer force. Oh, Lord have mercy. Pray for our country. You're not going to believe this one. The Bible. I'm going to ask a question. Does the Bible, this beautiful book of life, does it promote abortions? The Bible? Well, according to Gavin Newsom, it does. Gavin Newsom, according to the Christian Post, okay, the California governor, Gavin Newsom, he is starting a billboard campaign across the country in states like my state of Oklahoma and Texas, and where we've passed very good abortion laws. That the Bible cites with the words of Jesus an endorsement of abortions. So last Thursday, Gavin Newsom posted this image that you see here. Need an abortion? California is ready to help. So he is doing this in these red states to come here, right? To come here and have these. So leave your red state and go to California to get an abortion. Okay, learn more at abortion.ca.gov, and then he quotes the Bible. Okay, he quotes Mark chapter 12, verse 31. Love your neighbor as yourself, and there's no greater commandment than these. Oh, Gavin, man, you theological genius. He did these also. These he's calling us anti-freedom states, and his tweet read this: to any woman seeking an abortion, these anti-freedom states, California will defend your right. He tagged Governor Greg Abbott, Ohio Governor Mike DeWine, Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves. He also tagged the Oklahoma governor. This is just absolutely absurd, guys. And see, here's the thing. As Bible believers and as a pastor, okay, here's what I'm going to tell you. What he fails to do when he, and this is, and you know, I understand it when satanic people like Newsom do this. I don't understand it when pastors do it, but here's what I'll tell you. This is the first commandment of all, right? He didn't, like many people, they'll take little parts of the Bible and twist it. Sean Fott once said that, he was commenting on this on Twitter, and he said that that Satan also knows his Bible. But Gavin Newsom doesn't know his Bible. He just made this, he just took this little context, because I'm going to read all of Mark chapter 12, and I'm going to take, not all of it, I'm just going to read you the context of this scripture that since the theological genius of Gavin Newsom. Now let me just read starting in verse Mark 12, verse 28. Then one of the scribes came, and having heard them reasoning together, perceiving that he had answered them well, he asked, which is the first commandment of all? Now, this next part is in red letters. Jesus said to him, the first of all commandment is, hear, O Israel, the Lord our God, the Lord is one, and you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your mind, all your strength. That is the first commandment. Now, with that as a backdrop, do you really think that God and the Bible is promoting abortion with that? Do you really think? If you love God with all your heart. I mean, let's just start with thou shalt not kill. Let's just start with that commandment. But I could give you so many scriptures where this abortion is murder, and we don't even have to debate that. But the only thing that Gavin Newsom did was quote verse 31. And the second is this: you shall love your neighbor as yourself. There's no other commandment greater than these. Now, let's just take Newsom's argument. Love your neighbor. I'm going to tell you guys, life begins at conception. At conception. That little baby is your neighbor. He is. This is crazy, guys. This is absolutely crazy. Consider the Bible's very clear on the exploration of God's will, on God's will, and the value of each beautiful life in His creation. And the exclusion of the first commandment is pretty noteworthy of Gavin Newsom. You know what he is? And we preached about this last week. He is a scoffer. Gavin Newsom is a scoffer, which can mean one who mocks or ridicules or scorns the belief in other people. In Hebrew, a scoffer is also translated as a mocker. Okay, a mocker who disagrees with an idea or considers themselves as somebody that they're not. And that's exactly what Gavin Newsom did here. And here's what I'll tell him. Here's what I will tell him. Psalms chapter 14, verse 1 says there is make no ambition for those who ridicule God. The Bible has a lot to say about scoffers. You can see it in Proverbs, you can see it in Acts, you can see it in Psalms. But Psalms 1:1 gives us a very clear instruction on how to deal with scoffers. And it says simply this: how blessed is the man who does not walk in the counsel of the ungodly, nor stand in the path of sinners, nor sit at the seat of scoffers. Yes, that scoffer. The Bible warns us not to entertain their company. Proverbs 13:12 5:20 says simply this: whoever walks with the wise becomes the wise, but the companion of the fools will suffer harm. What a great way to end our podcast here today. Guys, there's a lot to pray about in our world. And what I pray is that may God bring true revival to his people, starting with the Christian leaders. It's going to take a lot of prayer across the land. Disciples of Jesus, we've got to stand up and we've got to fight this spiritual war in a way that God would be proud of us. We've got to do this by highlighting and shining the light of Jesus on all these dark corners to get the cockroaches out, like Newsom, like the University of Vanderbilt, the things that's happened here. We've got to take back what it belongs to God and what doesn't. Because everything belongs to God. He created everything. And we've got to be a people that expose this. Our children deserve better. May the awakening begin with us. And may God bless you, and go bold.